What's going on, everybody? It's SJG. Welcome to HBCU Game Day, and we have episode 3, another episode of D2 HBCU Football Matters. I am joined by my esteemed guest slash co-host, Chris Ferguson, and my man Kendrick, and we are here to talk about D2 HBCU football. We know all about the MEAC and the SWAC. You hear about that on all the other shows. Big shout out to everybody who does that, but there's not always enough time. It seems like we never have enough time to really delve into. Am I right, guys? To really delve into the D2 HBCUs with enough depth. I'm sure you guys would agree with me.
Right, absolutely.
Facts.
Oh, would you look at the time? I'm messing. Look, it's a big thing, so we wanted to make sure the D2s have their own hot spotlight on this as well. So. Here we go. I got the best of the SIAC, the best of the CIAA, and guys, we are now into week 3. How are you guys feeling? Is it going too fast for you guys already? You know, we don't get bye weeks and stuff usually like the D1s. How are you guys feeling about that?
Man, it's like we wait all year and then you blink your eye, it's gone, you know. But it's three weeks in, doesn't really feel like 3 weeks in, but you know, hey, it's a lot of football has been played, but it's still a whole lot of football left to be played.
And Kendrick, I got to stop you right here, and I'm going to go ahead and just give you the floor right now because we're going to go into our week 2 thoughts before we get into week 3. I see the shirt that you have on, and I'm a little perplexed, but I think, and I look at the background behind you, and I feel like I'm a little more perplexed. So you know what we're going to do, man? We are going to clear the floor, and you started off, man. Talk to us about why you're wearing what you're wearing as a Tuskegee University alumnus.
Well, first off, I just want to, give my condolences to the Hornets for that loss they experienced this past Saturday. Miles beating them for the first time in their history. And I just thought that I would just, show my condolences and my support to that program, to that university for what happened to them. And then, I had to represent Miles. He was on that Hornet pack after getting the win Saturday. So that's all I want to do, just show a little brotherly, institution love since they are right down the street.
I have no words, man. Because it's like, I know how you feel about Alabama State. So the fact that you have this shirt on, it's blowing my mind right now.
Listen, I had to do it. I told them all summer long from the very spring game. I went on a rant. Miles by 3, and all the other spaces, and they were like, "Oh, you crazy?" Miles by 3. Bama State and Miles had this spring game the exact same day. I did not make it to Miles spring game. I went to Alabama State and said because I didn't get up in time. I went and saw the spring game. I heard all the hype, and I was just like, I don't know what people saw. I know what I saw. And when I turned on the Miles spring game, I was like, yeah, then I knew some things that Miles had coming, some pieces they had put together. I just felt like Miles was just going to be a better football team and could get over the hump this year. And they did. Yeah. So congrats to Coach Shade and Miles College for getting over the hump and beating Alabama State. And it just goes to the, the deeper conversation that D2s, like we have quality athletes, we have quality. I know a lot of times the conversation is how those FCS schools beat themselves, but in actuality, you just don't beat yourself. You face a quality opponent that actually came out and they took it to you.
Yeah, I mean the fact that like the SIAC and the CIAA are both participating in the D2 over FCS games is great. I mean, because it's we already talked about this last week, right? I mean, we had 2 from the CIAA to get over the hump. Now we've got the SIAC getting over, in addition to some of the other schools, across the country. I mean, we know like Shaw a couple of years ago, they played Davidson and they played them very, very tight. Then Davidson this year falls to Barton. So it's like it's been a lot of games like that this year, and the fact that we're participating in that is awesome.
And it could be a very deadly week for the SWAC this week. I mean, they got 3 matchups that are just I mean, it's toss up. You got Delta State and Mississippi Valley. I mean, Mississippi Valley already fell to Central State. So take from that what you will. You got West Florida going to FAMU. I think that might be the SWAC's best shot at getting the win. It's FAMU versus West Florida, but that's no guarantee.
Yeah.
You got Miles going up, to Pine Bluff, and you just see what happens there. So 3 interesting matchups that could end up. I got the SWAC going 1 out of 3 in these matchups.
You can't spell Valley without 2 L's because they run 2 L's to Division II teams.
Oh man, I know this is gonna be a hot clip. I know this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll eat my words if I have to, but
Yeah.
I mean, especially because so I played D2 fantasy football, and unfortunately, I have Delta's quarterback on my starting roster for this week. So, so I mean, if Valley wins the game, I'm pretty sure I'll hear about it. That's fine, but I mean, things just do not look good. And the fact that you scheduled 2 D2 games, that's a little bit concerning here.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. I looked at last year. Last year, the SWAC was supposed to be in their height of their renaissance period, and I looked at how close the SIAC played those SWAC schools last year. And I'm saying, with the transfer portal, and not just with the transfer portal, it's even how the type of you look at the SIAC, you look at how the players that are participating. You look at a lot of freshmen are participating. Freshmen that we probably wouldn't have gotten if the other schools weren't so busy, going after those guys in the transfer portal that are coming and making big impacts, on our program. So, hey, it's just in there. You got to line them up, and I think that's being shown across the country. Just not just beating up on the SWAC. It's happening across conferences all over the country where D2 teams are just lining up, and that's what you got to do. You got to line up every Saturday to play.
Yeah. So like, was that your most surprising thing that happened on Saturday?
Well, no, when I say I wholeheartedly believed that Miles was going to beat Bama State, that just had been my thing. Like, I just wholeheartedly believed it. And from the very first drive, when I went to the game, and the very first drive, I was like, okay, yeah, the offensive line has really improved for Miles. They are an experienced group up front, and it showed. Of course, they didn't have the explosive runs. They just 2 or 3 yards here, but hey, 10 yards, you get a first down. That's how they had 70 plays on Bama State Saturday. But they're not my biggest surprise. I do have a biggest surprise in the conference, but it's not Miles. I figured Miles would get it together.
Yeah. So okay. So who was it then? What was your biggest surprise?
I think my biggest surprise is probably in line with my biggest disappointment. It's like when I looked at Clark, I just did not expect them to look like that. It was just certain things I expected them to address in the offseason. And it's just shocking to me for them to still be getting manhandled the way they're being manhandled at this point.
So Clark played who?
They played Fort Valley. And don't get me wrong, I think Fort Valley is a championship caliber team. I know they had a lot of fans that were a little upset of them, how they lost the Red Tails Classic. But just, I think a lot of people don't watch as much SIAC football as I do. And as looking at over all the teams, I'm like, y'all have nothing to worry about. Fort Valley is right in the fight. For Clark, they're still small in the front. And so you can just run the ball on them. It's just easy to run the ball on Clark. And they didn't address that was their problem last year, and it seems to be their problem this year. So that's one thing that Fort Valley was just able to do, just run the ball down their throat. And it made for a long day.
Yeah. I mean, Clark hasn't really been a football haven for a long time. So I mean, what do you really expect here?
I don't know. I think they need to bring in the spirit. And when I look back over historically, Atlanta University they merged with, they have a better football history. So maybe they need to lean more on the Atlanta part than the Clark part. So.
It's tough times out there.
Yeah. Definitely. I think you're on mute.
You're on mute. My producer's on mute.
So you're basically telling me that they could fit right into the CIAA South, is what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely.
We welcome
Definitely.
you.
Definitely.
Boy,
You know,
it's dry in the desert over there. When you try to get some wins in the CIAA South, it's hard times.
I mean, not even wins. Can we get some points, Kris? I mean, I know I put it in the chat a little bit earlier, man, but the stats, man, the stats are killer. Like the bottom 6 scoring teams in the CIAA are the CIAA South schools. Like,
I got some stats here for you. Okay, I got some stats here for you. All right, the worst team in Division II scoring right now is St. Augustines. 3.5 points a game, 1 touchdown in 2 games. Shut out last week. I mean, against Elizabeth City. It was interesting too because it was like I listened to some of the game and definitely shout out to WRVS announcers. They always do a good job with Elizabeth City games and make it very entertaining. And like they were just like bummed because it was just like it was very little scoring through much of the game, and Elizabeth City mustered 13 points out the deal late. It was brutal. So yeah, St. August is last. Shaw is not far behind them. Really close to the bottom, and then Fayetteville State and Livingstone also struggling to find the end zone right now. So it's rough. It's pretty rough right now. It's a desert. So, hey, it is what it is. We'll get there eventually, but some of it's quality of competition. Fayetteville State played Lenore Ryan, and they played USC Pembroke. Those are always 2 hard-fought games. So quality competition matters there. St. Aug also played Lenore Ryan, got 7 points. And then Shaw had to go up against 2 ranked opponents in Virginia Union and Benedict. So, and Benedict, shout out to them. They haven't even allowed a single point scored on them yet through 2 games. That's the best score defense. So in the country. So I mean that's a big deal. I mean the CIAA South is struggling, but better days are ahead. So surprisingly, Winslow State is not among those teams of the bottom scoring wise. They've actually picked up their scoring this year. They got some things they need to work out on defense, I feel like. But scoring has been a little bit better there. And then John C. Smith. Oh gosh, let me talk a little bit about them. I need to get on my soapbox a little bit with them. If you okay, maybe not. Maybe I need to wait a little bit.
The T's of the CIAA, Johnson C. It's early. It's early. They play Bluefield State this week. I'm gonna hold off. But,
fair enough.
But I don't know.
How many yards of offense did what's the team that John C. Smith played this past weekend?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I was like, wait, how did you lose with
Bruh. Okay. Bruh. Walsh had 88 yards of offense and won the game. 88 yards.
Whew.
And like they scored on a pick 6, and they scored because Tyrell Jackson turned over the ball on the interception deep in their own territory, and then on the next play the dude runs it in, and that was like the 14 points that Walsh scored. I mean, John C. Smith, threw for like 3 times that in yardage. And because Jackson threw 5 interceptions. I mean, the defense tried to bail them out, but you would need something like what Bowie used to do, like the last couple of years. Bowie could score, score on defense to win, to help you win games, and you kind of needed that here. But Jossie Smith they just didn't have it. The defense played a good game, but they were just put in some really bad situations. So, I mean, what do you really say to that? That's just a tough loss. That's hard.
Yeah.
But I guess the South's going south. I don't know.
When it comes down to stats have been, really, really crazy this season, because if you look at, we had that other SWAC SIAC matchup with Lane and Alabama A&M. And of course the score is out of hand. But you look at the stat sheet, Lane was able to move the ball.
Yeah,
really well against Alabama A&M. I think, matter of fact, I think they had more yards than Alabama A&M, 379. But it was those four turnovers. Four turnovers. That doomed them. And then they just had a lot of missed, drop passes. And so the stat sheets have been crazy how teams have been getting wins. I think they also control the time of possession with Alabama A&M. But, you look at that score, it was like 51-13. It looked bad. It's like, man, right. Lane wasn't even in the game. But I think that's what makes the game coming up Saturday more intriguing. They have Benedict, and, of course, Benedict hadn't scored any points, hadn't allowed any points to be scored on them. But Lane can move the ball. So all honesty, I think that is the SIAC game of the week, if you ask me. Benedict has to travel to Lane. Last year was a 14-0. I think Benedict only had one offensive touchdown last year, but it was raining, so Lane likes to throw the ball, so it was just run the ball on the ground, a little slug fest, mud fest, whatever you want to call it. But this year we're gonna see. I think this will be Benedict's first real test. We're gonna see. I don't think Lane's defense will be able to just stop Benedict's offense, but I think Lane offense can, keep up pace. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And we pull up the stats here. You want to talk about domination? Benedict, they scored 86 points. They've given up 0 total first downs. They've only allowed 16 total first downs in 2 games. That's 2 first downs a quarter in 8 games. They aren't committing very many penalties. We saw a lot of teams fall to penalties. They've only allowed 85 yards rushing in 2 games, 153 yards passing, which is still more than North Carolina A&T has. I'm sorry.
You just had to throw that in there.
I'm not really sorry. It's the truth. But anyway, total domination by Benedict. So I think we're coming to this point in our conversation too, where we kind of want to touch on some things. We'll get back to the on the field action, but we did have some news this week that dropped. Kind of fell out of the sky. We just looked one day, and we're just going along doing our thing, and we just kind of say cheese. There's a bowl game. The SIAC and the CIAA have come up with a bowl game. It is official now. We only learned about it about a week ago. So both conferences have signed on. There was a press conference today. Some more details are trickling out. But right now, what we do know is it's December 13th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is actually 3 days before the Celebration Bowl. So, but it is a couple hundred miles away. We've talked about this. It doesn't, from what I understand, it doesn't look like it's going to impact the playoffs. But again, what do you guys think? Obviously we've had the Pioneer Bowl before, and we're going to get to some of these guys' questions too before it gets too late. But what do you guys think about this bowl game? And then we'll get into some questions.
Did you see the look of disgust on his face?
Listen, on the SIAC talk on Sundays, I'm always, like I'm against the bowl thing, but like I told them, money can make me change my mind. I'll support it 100% for money, but I just want to just start. December 13th is on a Wednesday, and right there is when I just stopped. Like I stopped a Wednesday. I'm sorry. Our fan bases are really, like in the SIAC, we have a really big base of older fan base. They ain't missing Bible study to come to Fort Lauderdale on December 13th. Okay. Bible studies on Wednesdays, and it's just not happening. Like I'm confused.
It's Wednesday at 7 though. Like they can go to the game, then they can go to Bible study.
No. And we just keep it honest, when we talk about the Pioneer Bowl, that's really the Tuskegee Invitational is what it should have been called. Who's traveling? It was a lot of questions. That I just wasn't really sure. I know there was like a team qualified. They have 6 wins. Are they really concerned about attendance? Is it going to be like, the viewership numbers? It's a lot of things that just have me like, whatever. But at the end of the day, I want our team to get in the playoffs and compete well. That's what I want. I want our team to get in the playoffs and not get manhandled, get bam. Let's win, because we see that impact our recruiting during the recruiting season. It impacts it, and I don't know about if going to play on the beach at Fort Lauderdale on a Wednesday is going to be a selling point during recruiting. I just don't see it. So it's just one of those things to me that I'm not a fan, but if it brings financial benefit to the conferences, hey, I'm not going to be, if Tuskegee's in it, yeah, I'm going to be down there. I might, I'll be there, but hey, but it is what it is.
I mean, there's a few ways to look at this. So part of the reason why I don't like it on a Wednesday is not just that older fan base, but, people got jobs to go to. You're asking people to take leave to go to, go down to a football game. And is that really going to happen when you got Christmas right around the corner and New Year's right around the corner? And then Edward puts in the chat too, you're asking people to travel like Fort Lauderdale, South Florida is an outlier. And when it's wintertime, like that's high season for South Florida because the weather is better than like anywhere else in the country. Right. So, it's going to be much more expensive to go down there during that time too. So there are some like negatives to this whole setup. And then you're not going to get like the best team in either conference because they're going to the playoffs. Yes, the playoffs don't make money. I mean, that is an issue. I mean, that's kind of why we saw, the FCS schools go to the Celebration Bowl. But they don't, I mean, the playoffs doesn't make money. So if you're really about money, that makes a big deal. But South Florida, I mean, you're going to have to sell that to the cities, to the 3 counties down there to get people to come out because that's a lot to ask for from a fan base. And the timing is just not all that great. Now, I will say, too, that, like, the fact that you have, like, the playoff games on the weekends and having this game on a Wednesday might get some more viewers that ordinarily wouldn't watch a football game that starts to get a little football starved. So that helps. But it's still kind of, like, a bit sus to me. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, and I go back to when you talk about the Celebration Bowl, when that came along, there were people, the SWAC people immediately loved it. The MEAC people, they'll say that they love it now, but back then it was definitely something that, there were strong feelings about. They were used to doing the playoffs, even though they hadn't had a lot of wins, they were used to doing the playoffs. I think, that the end people, just like we talk about the Pioneer Bowl, people remember the Heritage Bowl. But I think the thing with the Heritage Bowl was, having it's now, the thing is now we always think in HBCU football and smaller football of attendance as being the marker. But of course, for the Celebration Bowl and the games like that, it's TV. What kind of TV numbers can you draw in, right? So, the game is going to be streamed. I believe HBCU Plus is the platform that is going to be streaming it. And I would have to think that at this point, when people are putting together a game like this, it's about the media that you can sell around it. So, we'll have to see, when the celebration was a bowl was announced, there wasn't a sponsor. Initially, Air Force Reserve came on and did it. And then they had it for a couple years and then they didn't have it. And people kind of worried about the health of it. So, the main thing is when you're doing a bowl game at this point, and everybody knows they're super saturated, especially around that time frame. I guess they would be the unofficial kickoff to the bowl season because it had been the Celebration Bowl. So I guess they would be the first bowl. But it's going to be interesting to see if they have who's going to be, come up and be a title sponsor. What kind of money are they going to give? What kind of perks are they going to give? Because again, we've seen the Pioneer Bowl, and I think we all know that died just because there wasn't, the thing that the Celebration Bowl has had is it has ESPN events, their machine behind it. This event, if it's going to be successful as the Celebration Bowl has been, and even though that's had its ups and downs, they're going to have to have somebody that is a dedicated TV partner and some big time sponsorships for it to happen. And then it's about eyeballs. And then I think if you talk about attendance, then it's going to matter what matchups you get, right? We know Tuskegee's not going to the playoffs, not because they're not going to be a good team, but because that's the route that they've chosen to go. So, if you get a fan base like Tuskegee, as Kendrick just said, you may get a crowd there. And then, depending on the CIAA, if Virginia State, they have a decent sized following. I'm not sure about, traveling down to Florida, but I'm sure, they probably get it together. And then, Winston-Salem State, if they can make a 6-win threshold, and Lord knows, we'll believe that when we see it, but they do, WSSU does travel, and a WSSU Tuskegee matchup is probably the sexiest matchup you're going to get as far as fan attendance. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see from that perspective how this thing goes. I'll let you guys give your thoughts, and then we'll go into the questions and everything.
And we owe y'all a whooping. What is that, 17, 18, whatever y'all came down. And I never forget, y'all hadn't won a game, and Kris tweeted me. He said, I believe Winston-Salem going to get their first win. I was like, going to get their first win? And came down there and hit us. And came down there and hit us in our mouth. I hadn't gotten over that yet. So
your shed to take over your shed. We'll come in your shed, take over your shed. That's probably that's probably one of the best victories in the last 5 years. So they'll definitely take it. But yeah, you guys, final thoughts on the game. And then we also had the CIAA and the HBCU go. I know a couple weeks ago I reported that the two sides were far away and they kind of pulled apart, but they came up with a 10-year agreement. I understand that there are some ins and outs to it, and I hear the SIAC. I think they have some. They have done some SIAC games. I don't know that they've gotten a long-term contract either. But what are your guys' thoughts on getting HBCU go and the CIAA? And what it means for them.
Well, I would say that one of the things that came out in when they announced this deal was somebody's listening at the CIAA's office, and I'm so happy for it because they actually went to each campus and looked at like the whole video infrastructure, and because of that, I think we're starting to see like some real improvements being sunk into like presentation. And I think that that's huge. And so, anything that could be done to sort of enhance that experience where the product looks good, because like the product now is better than like what you see in some of the other broadcasts like Flow Sports. I mean, everybody complains about Flow Sports. And so things like that, I think, are a really big deal, and it's great to like really like show off what the conference can do. So in that respect, it's a good thing.
Yeah, HBCU Go. I had some complaints about when the Benedict Shaw game and also the Mississippi Valley Central State game. Like from a production standpoint, like things are good, but just the era, not showing it. Like you flip on HBCU Go and you supposed to be watching one game. The next thing you know, you watching a Grambling FAMU game from 2022. Like that just was irritating my soul. It's like, okay, y'all get it fixed, because I've seen clips where y'all talk about they want to combine all the HBCU basketball conferences. Like, I'm just saying, get your stream right first, so that when I click on that, I can get quality products, especially if you're trying to lock these schools into these 10-year deals. Like, make sure you have a quality product before we get locked in. Because I watched the A&M versus Lane game on YouTube, and it was done extremely well. So it's like, yeah, I'm not sure about these 10-year deals if y'all not going to make sure that you guys are pouring the money into making sure your product is, quality, or at least, but people can watch the game if their team is on. I looked at that last drive that Central State had to win. We couldn't see it. We could not see it. That's a big time deal for Central State to knock off an FCS opponent. I would have loved to have seen that, not have to go back, in hindsight. So just make sure your product is up to par before 10-year deals, please.
It turned into HBCU stop, as in stop watching. You weren't watching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, come on, So 10 years is a very long time. So I sure hope that there's an option to reconsider if it's not working out. Who wants to get stuck into a really bad deal? But we'll see.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kindric.
I said, because I think the SIAC, like, we're locked in with ESPN to 2027, I believe. So that's interesting to be locked into a secondary deal with them for 10 years. So.
Yeah, definitely. I believe the SWAC's deal with HBCU Go was 10 years as well. The thing about HBCU Go, though, is that is a plus. Is they get their the reach is pretty vast as far as linear TV, because you can see it on the Grio, which I think you don't have to have cable to have, which is which is always a great thing, great for folks, and again, the CIAA network. There were varying levels of competence. Let's just say that varying level of competence, and keep it at that. So we'll go through some questions that folks had real quick, and then we'll get into looking at this week. Can Lane College score on Benedict? Not will they win. That's not even what we're asking. Can they do what no one else has done yet and score on Benedict? And if so, how many?
I think Lane can score. It's actually my upset of the week. Now, God, I don't want Benedict people to attack me, but it is my circled game for upset of the week. Like, if there's going to be upset in the SIAC, outside of maybe, I don't even know if you would consider Morehouse or Albany State, but I think that if there's an upset to be had, it will happen with Lane and Benedict. I think Lane offensively, no one has shown me that they can stop the ball. Like, and they faced two quality defenses. Like, the defense for Miles is legit. The defense for A&M is, it's legit. They've shown me that they can run the ball when need be. And if Polo decides that he wants to be the quarterback that I know he can be, I see no reason why that's not a tight game. If they score, I'm looking for maybe 35-33 game. I'm not looking for a blowout. It's not going to be a big time blowout, and I just think Lane will be able to move the ball.
Interesting. So let's get a couple more of these questions. /comments. Everybody, make sure you leave them. Appreciate everybody. Guys, please make sure you guys like the stream and also hit those notification buttons. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. All right, so I'm gonna get up to my guy Jacoby, who's a part of the HBCU Game Day family, and he's all about the North. He's a Cheney guy. I almost said Lincoln. Like he might fight me the next time he sees me, but he's a Cheney guy. So they don't have football right now. He's a former football player, so shout out to Cheney. But he wants to talk about the North. He always wants to talk about the North, but specifically Lincoln University, who got a win last week. And Kris, talk about Lincoln. We know about the other. We know about the Axis powers of the North. But talk to us about Lincoln and what they got going on. What are you seeing in them?
Well, so Lincoln is a team that I like to try to talk about in a positive way. They've certainly had some pretty hard times lately, but things are improving at Lincoln. So let's talk about it. So Lincoln is 1-1 right now. Yes, they already have their win.
Lately, I'm sorry.
Be nice, Stephen. Be nice. Anyways, so Lincoln's already got a win this year. They actually played a new Division II newcomer in Post University out of the Northeast 10. Lincoln put up 48 points. It was amazing. So one of the stat lines that's a big deal is Malachi Langley, the wide receiver, actually leads Division II in receiving yards right now. I mean, if you think about the fact that like every year, the last like couple years, it's been, man, I always have to put out this challenge in my column about Lincoln. Can Lincoln even make it out of the Division II basement in scoring? And it would just be this challenge to inch up. Now that's just not the case. Between Isaiah Freeman, the quarterback, sophomore, and Malachi Langley and some of the other wide receivers they have, and even the defense has improved. Lincoln's going to be a very tough out in the North. They lost to Clarion out of the PSAC, but even then they were clawing their way back, fighting their way back in that game, and it wasn't a blowout. It was only like 30-20. So Lincoln's definitely on the come up in a lot of ways. A lot of those players are pretty good and younger. Some of the concerns I still have are certainly, at the linebacker spot, they've lost some experience there. The secondary's got a lot of active players. Defensive line's got quite a few ballers as well. So, yeah, Lincoln's going to be really interesting to watch. Don't be surprised, if they come out victorious in a few games and surprise some people. Don't be surprised. You've been warned.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Mississippi Valley of CIAA. They're the team. They might not always beat you, but they're gonna make it physical and put it there. Let's see. So we got that. And I see you breaking down the Bulldogs. I see you over there talking. Hey.
Look. They taking you hostage.
Y'all wasn't always like that. Come on now. Give the Lions some love. I know y'all been putting up video game numbers on them, for quite a while. But
what I'm saying though is that like against the bottom half of the CIAA, that they're gonna be very competitive. It's really been like Elizabeth City who they've really competed against, but really against the bottom half, they're going to be competitive, I think. I think the top half, I'm with you on that, but the bottom half is where it should be really, really interesting. So,
I'm gonna ask Kindric this. Central State, we know they beat Valley. And I know you had them in your poll, and we definitely want to talk about the poll too. But I know you had them in your poll. But what's your poll? I mean, okay, they beat Valley, but how good are they going to be this year? How do you feel about them a couple weeks in?
They went up against Dayton Saturday, and that turned to a murder fest. But Dayton also murdered Kentucky State last year. They went 8-3 last year, so I'm not thinking Dayton is that that bad. But they were able to score 21 points. Basically what they scored 24 against Mississippi Valley. So they have a quarterback that can thread he can thread the ball. So Saturday they have Tuskegee. We will learn a lot about Central State Saturday. If they can keep that game competitive, I think they'll be interested. Of course, that's me being biased. I don't think they can beat Tuskegee, but I'm sure they'll come down and give it, their best shot. So I still have question marks about them. I have question marks. Some people have told me, their front seven looks, really legit. I still have a few questions, because I'm not sure how good Valley is. It was just one of those things where, it's like in comparison, I see good things, but then it was just like, I'm not really sure. So we will see. If Tuskegee can come out and run the ball on them like they came out and ran the ball on Kentucky State Saturday, it's going to be a long day for Central State. So, I put them in the poll because being the FCS team is just, I'm going to always rank that high. But, I think they're still middle of the pack SIAC team.
So, so I know we talked about last time we talked about the passing in the SIAC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is the better team in the middle? Central State or Allen?
God, I'm such good friends with the Allen people. Please don't put me through this. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Okay. Allen played Columbus State, a club football team. Okay, I joked about in the SIAC talk space that I could have went and worked a 12-hour shift and came out and played football for Columbus State. That game. So I don't know. I'm still concerned. I mean, they have a really big test this week. They have Kentucky State. Can they keep David Wright upright? Okay, it's going to be the ultimate thing for them. If Allen beats Kentucky State on Saturday, Allen goes into, for me, in one of the top 5 teams in the conference if they beat Kentucky State. So it's just like, the first win, okay, good. I'm glad y'all got the win, was supposed to get it. Columbus State, I'm not even looking at that. The conference don't even put it on their website. Okay, it was like an off week for me. Glad you got that practice. Now you have Kentucky State. Let's see. And so that's where I am. If they win Saturday, one of the top 5 teams in the conference.
Yeah. And I only mention that because we know that, Allen's got David Wright, who can put up a lot of yards. And I think it's a really good comparison to Central State in a lot of ways. So, yeah.
We want to see that, we'll see that defense get tested. That was one of the points of emphasis that Coach Keaton talked about all season, that they could score a lot of points, but they couldn't stop anybody from scoring. So he talked about a lot of the DBs that he bought in. And so we get to see, because Kentucky State is going to want to throw the ball around. So here's the opportunity to show us, to put the conference on notice, really, that, hey, we're here and we're really ready to play football.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I'll go to Kris. Your biggest, I think Kindric already gave us his. What's your biggest disappointment in the CIAA so far through 2 games? I think I know where you're going.
I think my biggest disappointment right now is Shaw. For a school that we always think about as, contending for the CIAA South and, has quite a bit of talent. Last year they were not healthy. So we wanted to see what a healthy Shaw looks like. And they are just been very flat. And so, disappointment, I'd probably say it's probably them. I didn't expect them to win those games. I expected much more fight out of them, though.
Because I was gonna go with Fayetteville State.
No, I'm not worried about Fayetteville. Fayetteville plays a challenging schedule. They should have beat Pembroke, but they didn't.
That's the thing. Make a jump, like make something, and I just feel like they had an injury bug with the quarterbacks going on game 1, so I'll give them that. But it's like, again, last year, they got to the championship game, finally got the championship. They didn't think that they were going to go to the championship game, and they were just kind of happy to be there. And, that UNC Pembroke game was a chance for them to really, stick their claim, even though, and then Pembroke got beat by West Virginia State. So it
True.
doesn't look like this is a powerhouse Pembroke team. And then you have
No.
and then you had Lenore Ryan at home, and it's Lenore Ryan, but they were at home. It's like you would have liked to see them get there. And we know, the CIAA South is what it is. It's been what it's been, and right now there's no evidence for sure that it's going to be different. But still, it's I don't know. That would be me.
Fair enough.
But what's been who's a breakout guy that's in the first 2 weeks for you guys, if you haven't put out already, that has impressed you guys, and somebody that, as we get into conference play, that you guys are going to be watching for, either somebody new or somebody that's just gotten a lot better.
For me, I can just go down the list of quarterbacks in the conference. For me, like that has really been my point of interest, because quarterback had seemed to be lacking, in the conference. So you got Edwin at Miles, who's come in and really put a spark to the offense. So with his arm, I mean, you have the Polo, you got a transfer at Lane, Polo Jackson, throwing 200, 300 plus yards a game. He has moments, but he's growing. We're watching him grow up. And of course you got David Wright, he's just going to be who he is. Like I said, Lewis, the quarterback for Central State, all those guys that come in. And then you got Dennis for Benedict. I mean, we all thought, well, not we all. I'm gonna just say, like, there was a big point of interest for people with Benedict, and for myself especially. I didn't think that Benedict offense would be moving the way that it is moving now, having lost, so many guys up front, losing the quarterback. I just really thought, okay, yeah, Benedict, that defense was gonna be fine. I probably argue that defense is better this year than it was last year. Okay. But I did not expect that offense to move. And I won't choose my words carefully when I say this, but that offense almost seems to be clicking better and faster than it was last year this time. And so that should be scary for anybody in the conference. Okay. You saw what they did to everybody in the conference last year. But I think Dennis for Benedict, yeah, he's definitely come on and proven that he's that guy to lead that offense. So,
Yeah, if I had to go with somebody that has been a real standout, I'd probably say Upton Bailey at Virginia State, who's leading the conference in rushing, through 2 games. The one thing about Virginia State, they always have like these running backs that have breakout games, right? So last week was like a bit pedestrian, but he still found the end zone. And I think that really matters. In the end, it's about points. It's not about yards, right? And so I think the way that I think his story in general is pretty awesome. He was a cornerback. Then he ended up being like a 3rd, 4th, 5th string running back. Came in when they got injuries, really, flourished in the role. And now he's like the first option at running back now, Virginia State this year. So I think that he is a one that really sort of stands out. I've been pretty impressed with Dalen Lee at Winston State, true freshman, who seems to be really learning on the job, and passed for 278 yards last week. I thought that was pretty outstanding as well. I'm kind of like you. I could go down the list of a couple of quarterbacks, Amir Jenkins at Bowie State. I thought, he passed for a lot. Yeah, he had quite a few interceptions, but, again, learning on the job as a full-time starter. I think he's ahead of the curve on that. And Jacquay Hart at Bluefield again, passed for over 200 yards as well. as a true freshman. So, quite a few of those guys certainly stand out in those positions too.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Before we get into week 3, go ahead and give me your grades for the conference for week 2. Kris, you go first.
Out of conference play is always an issue for me with the CIAA because they're typically filled with games that don't go very well, and then we pay for it at the end when it comes to playoff seeding. I would say that it's probably a C as my grade. And, I thought Bowie State at the end had the chance to win the game. They were down like 12. And in the fourth quarter, they got it. They scored, and then they had the chance to hit with the go-ahead touchdown. But Bowie's issue is a lack of a running game. Oh my gosh, the running game is just not there, and so you're putting a lot of pressure on your quarterback in situations, and they got down to the red zone quite a bit, but they just could not punch it in and settled for a field goal. So that honestly, Davenport's 25 ranked team, Bowie State hung with them, but to not be able to pull that out at the end was just simply unacceptable. Virginia State, being able to take down Tusculum was good. That's a good win, comparatively speaking, as well. And there were other games that I thought the conference kind of hung in there, but John C. Smith's loss is inexcusable. Winston State put up a fight, but they still kind of learning on the job as well. At some close games, Emory Henry, what they did to Bluefield State was expected. So I can't really be too mad about that. Lincoln pulling out the win, that helps. And poor Livingstone, literally just thrown to the natives.
I'm trying to figure it out since 1892, man.
I mean, just brutal. What Catawba did to them.
That 1892 Johnson C. Smith defense might still score on them. I don't know.
That is so not nice. Be nice, Stephen. Be nice. But it's I would say a C.
And it doesn't get any nicer for you talk about me being nice. They got Virginia Union. Virginia Union be nice to them. You remember a couple years ago, man, when Livingstone, that infamous 2019 season when they went 4-0 and they were talking all that trash to you. They had all the smoke. They were like, yeah, man. No, man, you got to pay to see us. They 4-0. They Clark, Atlanta. Some of those club teams that the kids was talking about. Rolled out.
Oh man,
even out of control right now.
They didn't even want Kris to get a meet. They said, "No, you got to pay to see us." And Virginia Union came out there and just nicely, skinned them real good, and that was and they didn't win another game that season. So, hey, that's in the past though. We got the future coming up real soon. But Kindric, go ahead and give me your grade for the SIAC.
So I came out really strong and gave the SIAC A the last week, but I got to drop my guys down to a C this week, and just mainly because the number of blowouts Lane gets blown out, Central State gets blown out, but those are games that they're the D2 FCS, so I was kind of okay. But then when I look over the conference, got Edward Waters getting blown out. I mean, getting held to like 69 yards against Benedict. I want the conference to have more parity. I want the conference to be more competitive, within the conference. So I was expecting Edward Waters to be a little bit more competitive. So I was disappointed in them. I was disappointed in Albany State, even though I know they were playing Valdosta State. But let's be real. This is not the Valdosta State of old, okay? This is not that old Valdosta State. That was a game that I really wanted Albany
They're
State
just trying to
to.
help the brother keep his job, man. He can't be losing the HBCU.
Well, I mean, the guy that's at Albany State, I know he's new, but he got the win to keep his too. So I'm gonna tell you a famous story about Coach Kindric one year at Turkey Day Classic. Tuskegee was there. They were losing at halftime, and all the talk was Coach Kindric came in at halftime. The only thing he told them they over there trying to say they coach job. DAM in his job. Forget his job. So if they were planning to help him win his job, forget their job. Forget his job. Like, get the win. So I don't think you get too many shots out of that also team like that, and I understand Albany State is going through their growing pains. And they just got to, and they still don't want to start Knowles, but Knowles seems to be the guy that gives them the best opportunity to move the ball. But hey, whatever the case may be, I had them getting beat this week. We'll get into that later. But I just got to give the conference a C because there were some games I expect that Valdosta State game for Albany State to at least push it, to the limits, get a win, and then I expected Lane to play A&M closer, and I also expected Central State to be a little bit more competitive. I didn't expect they were going to let them score 60, hang 60 on them, especially if you just beat one FCS team. But hey, it is what it is. So a C for me.
Yeah, Valdosta State's head coach is on the hot seat, unfortunately. I mean, it's
give some time, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean they gotta rebuild that squad, man. I mean
West George is leaving, so that should help him out.
Yeah,
eventually. All right, guys. So we got the grades from last week. Let's go into this week. So FCS Sportsbook has a line on some games, including some D2 games as well. So let's see what we got popping here. First line. Tell me what you guys think of this. Albany State is a 24.5-point favorite over Morehouse. Over under is 51. Reactions and how would you place your bets in?
Take the over.
I don't know what they're watching, but 24. You said a 24-point favorite,
and both of them together score 51.
Has Albany State scored 24 points in the game? Wait. I'm not even sure.
Morehouse, God, horrible.
But Morehouse. But wait. Okay, let's go back to them. Let's take Morehouse and Howard out. I think Howard has one of the best offensive lines in HBCU football. Just point blank
right behind them.
And so when you go back and look at Morehouse defense, I think Morehouse defense will fare well in the conference. And if you look at Albany State's offense, I think this is a prime game for Morehouse to get on the winning column. I mean, they have moments where they can move the ball. Don't get me wrong. Like, yes, Morehouse they got
first win of the coach's career.
Yeah, and I think it's Morehouse. Yeah, I make no qualms about it. Like it is. I think Morehouse gets Albany State this weekend.
No. I don't think so. I'm not. I get it on the defense for Morehouse. I get it, but the offense is so suspect that I am just not. No.
But
I got more faith in Albany. I got more faith in Albany than that.
It's gonna depend, man. Albany State they had a moment. You know what? To be honest with you, it is a toss-up game, but I just got it going to Morehouse. I mean, somebody got to win, somebody got to lose, and neither one of them have proven to me that they can put together a game to win. I'm just gonna go with Morehouse because I'm gonna go with Dr. King. How about that?
Breaking down the Bulldogs is such a menace right now.
Wait, breaking down the Bulldog. Is that DeLon? Who is that? I'll break it down. Oh, I need to look. On national tour getting beat down. Yeah, they are. I mean, so is Albany State too. They both on the national tour getting beat down right now. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Jacoby Simmons said, "Are you high?" I just haven't. I mean, show. I mean, turn on the tape. I mean, what has Albany State shown me that they can beat? I mean, because they get beat by a Wingate team that turns around and gets beat by Mars Hill. Now, Winkett has ran through HBCUs. We know that. We saw what Winkett did to Benedict, and we saw what Winkett did to Virginia.
They haven't lost since 2012.
Yeah, and then we saw what.
Year.
And we saw what they turned around and did to Albany State first game. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe let's give Albany State a pass and see how they get there. But I just didn't see much difference. I just think that's going to be a defensive battle. To be honest, I think that's just going to be a defensive battle.
That's
and
fair.
And whoever gets the 14 points, that's who will win. But I still got Morehouse getting 14 points. So.
Hey, okay, all right, here we go. How much of a underdog do you think Lane is to Benedict right now?
Probably people might have about like a 30-point underdog.
Somebody has a little bit more faith in Lane than you do. It's a 19.5 underdog to Benedict, and the over/under is 54.
Okay. I got Lane. I got Lane upset. Right. Well, I got that as my circled upset game.
Is Lane's like best wide receiver going to play in this game? I mean, did he not play last game?
Yeah, he played.
He played,
but they have a lot of weapons. They have oh my God, I wish Flicks was. Is Flicks still in here? What's the other wide receiver back that they have from the year before that
Anthony Evelyn?
Yeah. He's back, and then they still have Jacquez Jones. I mean, they have a lot of Lane's problem is when their quarterback gets them in trouble. I mean, he threw 4 interceptions against A&M. And then it goes back to that point we made last time, Chris. Punters, okay. If you cannot flip the field, I mean, the average punt was like 23 yards, 22 yards. If you can't flip field position, it's hard for you to beat a team that can score with you. So, like, you look at the stat line, they're moving the ball, but then when you have to punt, you can't make that team have to drive the length of the field. It's just kind of hard to come away, especially against the FCS team. So, it'll be interesting. I just think Lane's gonna have to come out swinging. They can't afford to just sit around. They're gonna have to come out hot.
Okay, and somebody asked breaking down the Bulldogs, asked where are they going to find 14 points. So look, I tweeted earlier this week, the joy of Morehouse's world was in Sion, because Sion got them 119 yards, and every time he scores, they just need to start playing that beautiful, beautiful Sion.
Listen, y'all have to take that Howard game and throw it out. Oh, take the Howard game and throw it out, and take 2 quarters of the
FCS. You don't take both the games out, throw them out because Virginia Union scored 45 on them.
And take 2 quarters of the Virginia Union game and throw it out.
No, really, the fourth. You throw the fourth quarter out because that was the one that they just ran up the score.
I think they just kind of gave down. But listen, I'm telling y'all, next week, I'm gonna come in here with a Morehouse shirt on. I'm telling you now. I'm gonna come in with a Morehouse shirt on next week. So I'm telling y'all, Morehouse is gonna win that game. I got faith. I got faith.
I don't.
Okay, CIAA special. All right, we've got the Blues. They will roll down the Bluefield State Blues will roll down I-77. They should be in the CIAA South, which should be the CIAA East, but anyway, CIAA West, but anyway, that is what it is. And they'll take on Johnson C. Smith for the 3rd year in a row. And Johnson C. Smith will try to beat them for the 3rd year in a row because they've caught those blue hands every time they played them. Johnson C. Smith somehow is a 5-point overdog. Chris, what say you? And the over-under is 46.5.
I think that's going to be a barn burner of a game. I really do. I think that, John C. Smith's defense is actually one that's at least pretty good on the stat line. John C. Smith offense third in the country in third down conversions right now. They convert 67% of third downs. On defense, they're the number 2 defense, total defense, 134 yards. That don't mean nothing. You can score less, have less than 134 yards to win a game, as we have seen last week. I think this is going to be a tale of 2 quarterbacks that could, either get into the end zone a lot or throw a lot of interceptions, and maybe not much in between. I do think JCSU's defense is a little better than Bluefield's defense, but I'm a little concerned about mistakes and potential turnovers here. So I think the 5 points is probably because it's a home game for JCSU. I think that's the difference, because I think these teams are pretty even. If I have to choose one, I'm probably going to go with Bluefield. I'm probably going to stick with them here.
Bluefield against CIAA South. I got to roll with it until otherwise. Kindric, your thoughts?
I'm going with Bluefield, and listen, it's not because of any stacks or anything that I've stood on either team. It's just that Coach Flowers beat Tuskegee in that first Red Tails Classic, so I want him to lose. So I'm going for Bluefield.
It's personal.
I'm rooting for anybody against Coach Flowers at this point, because he's the one that started this them 2 years of decline we had. Yeah. Bluefield, Coach Tony Coachum, is that his name? Am I saying
Tony
right?
Coachum.
I need you to beat Coach Flowers for me. Thank you. So that's all. I need him to. I need John C. Smith to get beat. So I'm riding with the dogs. Bluefield, what they the Great Danes, the dogs, whatever they are. Beat them, Bluefield State. I'm gonna have to get me a Bluefield State shirt.
Okay, so you got this comment on here. Bluefield might have the best social media team in the CIAA. Not only that, and which I actually agree with that, but their color commentators are also pretty good on the radio. So the game that they called against Emory and Henry when they had a stoppage and play for a bit of time was pretty good. So they're certainly not the best. I think the best, radio by far is still over at is VSU Voice, because you need a dictionary.
Shout out to John. To John. We got to get him on sometime.
Yeah. So, but their social media and media in general is very good.
Yeah, I also definitely want to shout out. I would also shout out Bowie State. Since Jolisa has come up there from Shaw, she's up there killing it. Her team is killing it. Fayetteville State, Adrian also always does a good job. I think some of the other teams are trying to come along as well. Some of the other programs are trying to come along as well. I'm liking Winston's game day graphics. Some of the other graphics leave a little bit to be desired, but the game day graphics I'm enjoying. Kindric, while we're on this, since we're we'll just take a tangent, because why not? Because why? Who's the best SIAC media teams out there in your eyes right now?
I think Benedict is still killing it. I mean, they're still seeing consistent growth on their social media sites. But also, I think Edward Waters does a good job. Miles does they're doing a job. And now Tuskegee has entered the chat, now that we've gone younger, younger head coach. What they're doing, getting photographers, videographers on staff, I think that has really impacted. So I'm still gonna get an edge to Benedict, but and also Lane has nice graphics, but they don't have the staff to keep us updated. Like, we don't see practice, we don't see as much material as I would like to see. But with Benedict, we get all of that. We're gonna get a daily little post update from Benedict. So I think that's why I still have them number one.
Okay, good stuff. Very fair. Let's get back to the picks. All right, so we got Central State at Tuskegee. How many points should Tuskegee be favored by, Kindric? And I'll tell you how much they are.
We need to be favored by 3 scores. We need to beat them by 21 points at least. So
19.5 is the line, and the over-under is 59.5.
Okay.
Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And Damon says Smith played West Virginia Wesleyan, who might be the worst football team in the country, and they lost to a team that had 88 yards. Chris, would you like to respond? Would you like to respond?
I can think of at least one team worse than Wesleyan. I'm sorry, but
You said Columbus State. Who's worse, Columbus State or?
No, man, like no. What is wrong with you, Steven?
Oh
my God.
Oh my.
No, honestly though, I think that St. Aug might be worse than Wesleyan right now. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad right now. I'm just saying. That's just my opinion. I'm just one person. I'm just one person.
We'll see. They got 36 scholarships, they said. So they got 30. They got 30, and they need, and so they're getting there. So we'll see. All right, let's see. We'll go to Savannah State, Clark Atlanta. Savannah State is the favorite. How many? Give me your line on this, Kindric, and I'll give you what they've got.
This is the game of trying not to be the bottom feeder, if you ask me. I think whoever loses this game should hit the panic button. You know how you normally bring that panic button out, Steven? Like, bring the panic button out Saturday, because whoever loses this game, panic. You might not win the game.
That this is the Cheeks Classic of the SIAC.
Yes, because if you don't win this game, I don't see a W on your schedule for either one of those teams. So, I can't even pick a score on this one. It's whoever shows up.
Well, right now, Savannah State is a 20-point favorite, 20.5-point favorite. The over-under is 50.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I meant this is the same team that almost have they scored at first. Let's see. They scored 16 against Southeastern. How many did they score against Bethune? Not many. Was it 6?
Karen says 7. So,
okay.
Yeah. So,
well, you know what? It's just
they scored 6.
Okay.
They scored 6.
Yeah. Absolutely not. 20 points from them, no. But don't get me wrong, Clark.
They got a defense and special teams, right? You got to dig for something when you're,
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward Clark winning this game though, because of how Clark played Kentucky State, and even at halftime, Clark still made that game. That was still a game at halftime with Fort Valley. Now, on the other hand, one of my critiques of Fort Valley is to stop playing with your food, because that's going to get you beat later on down the line when you play quality teams. Like, stop playing with your food. Like, you were the superior team against Clark. Go ahead and put them away. But it was just like, you allow Clark to play around. If Clark ever pulls it together, you'll see Savannah State experienced that last year with Clark, So Clark can move the ball. They were able to move the ball in Kentucky State. I don't think Savannah State defense is anywhere as near as good as Kentucky State's defense. So I think Clark would be able to score. But Clark's defense, I don't think Clark's defense can handle the running attack of Savannah State. So I think that game might be a high-scoring game, but I'm still going to get an edge to Clark.
Okay. All right. So staying in the SIAC, Edward Waters at Fort Valley State. Speaking of Edward Waters, what do you think will be a good win for Edward Waters, Kindric? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Anything, half a point. I'm sorry. I'm at Fort Valley State.
I think Fort Valley beat Clark 40-17. I think they'll beat Edward Waters 40-10.
Okay. They're a 21.5-point favorite. The over-under is 53.5. So, okay, yeah, Chris.
Painted button for Edward Waters, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, this one, I'll start with you, and then if Kindric has something. So, One of these teams is 1-1. The other is 0-2.
Oh hell.
One of these teams has beaten the other team the last 2 years in a row. And yet, Winston-Salem State is a favorite over Elizabeth City. 13.5 points. What are your thoughts?
I like it. I actually like it. Here's why. So Elizabeth City, I feel like they're certainly on the come up. But I think one of my issues with them is the passing game still isn't there yet. If I go to my trusty sheet here, Elizabeth City only had 23 yards passing last game. Now, granted, Winston State probably had about something similar in the running game. But each one, they're putting a lot of pressure on the other side of their respective part of their offenses. Does Adams Duxon as a running back, does he have another 70-yard performance? I don't know if I'm feeling that against, a better team than what St. Aug is. And I'm just particularly concerned at the fact that it took them 3 quarters to score. I am really, really concerned about that. So I think, Elizabeth City will definitely shock you. I mean, we've seen that the last two games where you would think that Winston could pull it together, and Elizabeth City, finds a way to shock you. And they were very competitive against Catawba, in a way that, they were able to hang in there many different ways, not just offense. But this is the first true road game for them. And Winston State is better than where they have been the last 2 seasons. And they were pretty competitive last game. So I do think that, Winston State probably has an edge in this game. It's somewhat even, but I like Winston in this game.
Hey, Kris. Yeah, it's like you said, one team can't run, one team can't pass, one team needs a head, one team needs a heart. Everybody's missing something.
Yeah, it's the Frankenstein.
The last 2 years though, Elizabeth City has clipped WSSU in this game. I want to believe that WSSU is better. I have to see it. Like you said, the run game hasn't been there, which maybe makes them have to pass a little bit more, which I don't think is a bad thing for them because, we're at a point now where, we look back with glee on the days of Rod Tinsley. And, at one point, that was looked at as less than efficient quarterbacking. But,
He had carry on more. I mean, there was a difference in the run game that really made a difference there. But here, Winston, Winston is kind of hard to gauge what their run game really looks like against like more comparable competition. So, maybe it gets a little better this week, but ECSU's line play is not bad. It's
their coach is he's a D line coach, just like Massey's a DB coach. That's what they do. So
right.
So
I just think that in the end, when you look at the totality of the 2 teams, I think Winston on paper should have a little bit more, but they have learned how to squander things over the last 2 times they played. So yeah, I'm going to go with Winston, but if Elizabeth City wins,
I might talk you out of it. But I think I'll be at the game. I think it's going to be interesting for the Teachers College Classic. The unofficial Teachers College Classic as we bring Kindric in here. Let's see. So we'll keep it moving. Let's see. We got Kentucky State over at okay, Vegas or wherever this is coming from. All right, so we got Kentucky State as a 4.5-point favorite over Allen. So somebody says that they don't believe the Yellow Jackets. They need more people. 4.5 points. What do you think about that? What do you think about that line? And how do you see this game playing out? The over under is 50 though, so they're expecting some offensive fireworks. Clearly,
Yeah. That's how I feel. I just feel like that's gonna be an offensive explosion. Like I said, we'll learn a lot about Allen from that game. We will see have they made it any step, towards being a better complete football team. They have talent. At certain positions they have talent. Just can they be a cohesive football team? But I'm just, I got to ride with Kentucky State. Kentucky State was able to pull it out against Clark. And until, if I had to eat my words, that'll be one of the games that I would be happy to eat my words from if Allen is able to beat Kentucky State. And like I said, if they beat Kentucky State, I will gladly put them as one of the top 5 teams in the conference.
Breaking down the Bulldogs. Come on, sir. It's been so long ago, man. I mean, come on. You got that, come on. You got all those banners. That's years ago.
Hey.
I'm kind of glad you remembered. I appreciate that. All right. So we'll keep it moving. We will keep it moving. So Lincoln comes down I-95 to Fayetteville. And they are a 23.5 point underdog to the 5-time defending CIAA South champions and the defending CIAA champions. Kris, are you expecting that type of a separation game this week?
I mean, I think this is a really good test for Lincoln to see how far they have come. Last year wasn't exactly a blowout either. So, I don't think this year is going to be any different in terms of I don't think it's going to be a blowout this year either. I like Fayetteville State in this game, but I think, again, it goes back to what I said before. I think Lincoln will be a tough out. And I do stand by that.
Okay. Miles at UAPB. All right, Kindric, talk to me, man. Can they be the next? Can they be the fourth? Fourth is it? Well, they would be the third SIAC team. Can tell me why Miles can knock off UAPB, who is a 3.5 point favorite? Talk to me.
I think for Miles, one of the reasons they got out of the Alabama State game without, injuries, which had been plaguing them, playing them the first game for the last couple of years. They would just get beat down because we know how physical Alabama State typically is. To get out of that game, last year when they played them, they lost their quarterback, couple of offensive linemen, their number 1 running back. So to get through that game, to get a win over Alabama State and still, pretty much be intact from an injury standpoint, lets me know, they're in good shape. Pine Bluff is typically not a team that just comes out and blows SIAC teams out. Last year, Lane took them to, really should have won that game. I always talk about that bad call, but they really could have won that game last year. I think for Miles, they can't start slow against Pine Bluff because I think Pine Bluff will have more offense than Alabama State can muster up, more offense. So I think Miles is going to have to come out strong, kind of jump on them early how they did Lane and not come out kind of flat and a little slow with Alabama State. But I see no reason why Miles can't be very competitive in that game and ultimately get the win.
Oh man, them SWAC people are gonna be on your neck.
But the thing is, come on now. All we heard all summer was how, even on the space last night in Josh's space, HBCU Nightly, they were still, going on and on about Bama State's defense and saying a couple of Bama State people saying that Alabama State had probably the best defense in the conference. And I was like, who? What conference? Like, what do you mean? That offensive line for Miles is legit. Once again, they do not get the real explosive plays, but how Miles' offense is built, 3.5 yards here, 3.5 yards on second down, 3.5 yards on first down. What do you have? You have a first down. That's the type of game that Miles is going to play. I think that Miles is physical enough. I think they have enough weapons. I think they have a quarterback that can manage the game well enough to make them competitive with, those middle to bottom teams in the SWAC. And so, typically, what is Pine Bluff? Typically they're not a top team in the SWAC. So I don't see why Miles would be, such an underdog outside of just the levels and divisions. But I think Miles really has a really good shot at going and knocking off two SWAC teams, and not like it hadn't been done before. 2010 Tuskegee, the unofficial SWAC champ. So hey, it is what it is. Go get them, Miles.
Great stuff. As always, yeah. It's going to be interesting. Pine Bluff, they made it to the SWAC championship game that year. There was they only had to play 4 games, but they made it. Hey, I haven't seen a championship game in a long time. All right. So next up, we've got. You know what? I'm gonna throw this in there to you. Got wow. All right, so that is a curveball. I think you guys weren't prepared for this, but I'm gonna go for it. So Mississippi Valley State is taking on Delta State. What do you guys think the line is for that game?
I hope Delta is the favorite, but I don't know.
Delta. It's at Delta. It's at Delta too.
At Delta. Hey, see. MEAC teams. Some D1. A D2 and a D1 home and home, not that unheard of. So, shout out to Mississippi Valley for being willing to do it. Look at you.
They're like right next door to each other.
You're in the clock central. You know what? Don't even give us the money game. Just come to Bowman Gray.
I think Tuskegee had A&M in 14. A&M came to Tuskegee in 14. So, it ain't unheard of.
All right, let's see. So they're a 25-point favorite.
Okay. Don't let them do you like that, Mississippi Valley. Now I got the root. Now I got the root for Valley. Come on now. Now we can't have that. Now we don't. God dog it. No. Okay. Mississippi Valley. I'm a D2 guy, but I'm gonna let my HBCU sisterhood, brotherhood, all that come in. Win the game if it's by 1 point. Come on now. 25 points now. Come on. Have a little respect. That's too much.
Well, okay. So another one that we sometimes look at is Massey, right? Massey ratings. Mm-hmm. Massey has Delta 91% favorite to win this game, and the line is not much different. 20-23, 37-14. And a moment of silence.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
Yeah, that's
brutal.
Yeah, that's gonna be rough. You know what? I think last week when I first checked that Shawan and Delta State game, Shawan was playing them really tight, and I was like, wait, I got to go back and look. But then when I went and looked back again, Delta State must have woke up and remember who they were, and I was like, oh, okay, well, no need to even go back and look at that. But
yeah, all right, Steven, you're doing like those other places do, where they're showing us FCS stuff or BCS stuff. We don't care about this. We don't care. That's what they do in the FCS. They go play those big money games like that. We don't care. We don't care about that.
Far be it for me to put that in the D2 HBCU Football Matters chat. We will. I should be purged for that. All right. Well, we'll go to next. We've got Shaw at Bowie State. Shaw is a 20-point underdog to Bowie State. The over-under is 45. What do you think about that, Kris? And Breaking Bulldogs, if they're still on.
45? Where's Shaw gonna score points? I'm not saying that. Like, okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. Shaw has the propensity to move the ball. I mean, they have struggled quite a bit, but Shaw is one of those teams that their backs are a bit against the wall, and that makes them a little dangerous against Bowie State in this game. And it's really interesting because a lot of the comments that I've seen about this season for Bowie State have been the Shaw game. Like, just basically that date has been circled for some time. I mean, some of that I think goes back to the way that the game a couple years ago got played, where Shaw pulled off the upset. At the very end, like with the punting situation happening, and Bowie State just has never gotten over that. So honestly, yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game. But Shaw just lets you down so many times. I mean, I just can't roll with him. So I think the line is appropriate. I think the combined score is a little too high.
So you don't think they have the bare necessities to pull off the upset in PG County?
No.
Okay. All right. So beyond that, let's see. Next up, we've got getting towards the end here. Virginia State, CIAA heavy here at the bottom. Virginia State is a 25-point underdog. What are they going to leave at halftime?
Oh gosh, no.
Are they just gonna get back on the bus and go up to Ettrick at halftime, like after the first quarter, maybe?
That's too low. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that's probably like Virginia State gonna score like 40 in this game, minimum.
Yeah.
Who are they playing again?
They're playing St. Augustine's University. The game, for those who are thinking about going or in the Raleigh area, it is at
Southeast Raleigh, I think.
Southeast Raleigh, yeah. I've been to a couple games there. They used to play there. They're getting new turf installed. It was interesting too. They said that part of their release, it was from an interim AD, and as far as we know, Lynn Dawson is the AD there. So that's interesting. Hey, something's going on in Raleigh. We don't know. But a lot of things going on in the triangle HBCU wise. But yeah, they're playing St. Aug.
40 minimum.
Okay. Jacoby will be at the Bowie State Shaw battle. Let's see. We have Virginia Union and Livingstone. Kris, how much should Livingstone be an underdog by? And we'll assume that Jada Byers is not playing. I'm going to assume that he's not playing. But what are your thoughts?
If Byers, I mean, yeah, just because Byers ain't playing, I mean, they got other running backs that can tote the rock. So, yeah, this is another. Probably 35. Yeah, probably 35 to be nice.
These folks have a little bit more faith in Livingstone than you do. Virginia Union is a 29-point favorite.
29? Where are you getting these things, man? 29?
This is from the FCS Sportsbook. So.
Oh well, there you go.
I mean, I'm sure they're using some type of data. So, but 25 is the line there, and that game will take place in Salisbury at Alumni Stadium in the on the blue turf, the Smurf blue turf. And we got another D2 game, D2 West Florida at FAMU. FAMU is an 8-point overdog favorite. That sound right to you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say so. West Florida is one of the best teams in Division II. I would say they have played FCS schools and won like in a high scoring type of game. Uh, this is probably under a different regime, um, but this game matters more to West Florida than it matters to FAMU. I mean, so I don't like this game for FAMU because I just feel like if West Florida wins this game, it's just going to give them such a leg up over things. So I understand why it got scheduled. The Gulf South has a hard time trying to find games, and so they're willing to take the FCS games now or the NAIA games. Um, and just in that part of the country, it could be kind of tough. But the one thing for FAMU is right, like you see in the comments, FAMU cannot come out flat. Um, West Florida has, people like John Giles, who used to be at Virginia Union at wide receiver. He's got size. Pee Wee Jarrett has got the skill sets to hang in there as a quarterback, and they have a defense that is respectable. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to this game. But man, I really do not want FAMU to lose this game for so many different reasons.
Yeah, we had Brian Lester on the SIAC talk this past Sunday to kind of, give us some insight and what he thought about West Florida. That game, when I first saw it, it kind of like, I don't know, FAMU. I've seen you tussle with Albany State last year, and it's just one of those games where like I'm concerned for them. I think one of the things is, like you said, West Florida has beaten McNeese State before. This FAMU team, I mean, don't get me wrong, FAMU is talented enough to come out and soundly, beat West Florida. However, West Florida, they have talent, and it's just like it's going to be whoever comes out and watch the most film, who's done the most studying, because I think West Florida is going to come out gunning. And I know, Kris, you say that it means more to West Florida than FAMU. I mean, FAMU's home game winning streak is on the line. I mean, they got to play for some pride, at least. I mean, you got to say, hey, I mean, the SWAC as a whole at this point has to say, look, and I know this talk about D1, I mean, FCS D2 gets old, but at some point, as a respectable FCS conference, you got to say, listen, we can't take all these L's to these D2s. I mean, you got to stop it. So somebody has to have some pride in the conference and say, okay, let's put an end to this. And I just think it's a dangerous week overall for the SWAC as far as their D2 opponents.
I would just say that the fact that you have the fact that you have two of the top Gulf South teams playing SWAC teams this week, it's already bad that they're losing, to the SIAC. It's a real gut punch when you have other schools from other conferences now coming in, because it's already like a rivalry, right? So that's one thing. But these other schools coming in as well to do what they do, that's an embarrassment. If Delta and West Florida go and get these wins, and unfortunately Delta's favored. I mean, that's bad.
I think one of the things that that really has me concerned about if the SWAC loses, because you look at margin of victories. a lot of time the margin for, especially last season, the margin of victory for SWAC schools was really small compared to when the SIAC goes and plays top level GSC teams.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, that's one way to look at it. And when we start talking about, when we start talking about playoff talk, we start talking about respect, how people respect the conference. One of my big things is at some point we have to win. Okay. We have to win. Like, we just have to just shut the whining up and win. Because every time we go out and we get we get punched in our mouth and we never recover. I mean, we get knocked out. It's like, okay, cool. The SWAC is a FCS conference. I do not, okay, yeah, we get a win every now and again. Okay, who we celebrated. But for this to be like a consistent trend, to consistently get wins, to consistently play you tight. And then when you let the other conferences, it's like, hey, listen, come on now. They already beat up on us. Like, y'all got to step in and be like, all right, come in, be the big brothers y'all want to be and beat these teams. But unfortunately, I just think that this is a draw. This is a, I mean, if they had Mississippi College, I'll be like, okay, yeah, it's SWAC, but this ain't Mississippi College that's coming there. No. You got Delta State and West Florida now. You're gonna have to line up and play football.
Yeah. So there's a nice little question here. Does HBCU D2s play other FCS schools as much as they play other conferences other than SWAC and the MEAC? And how do they usually fare? So since I have covered the CIAA, which is like 2016, I've seen Bowie State. I actually went to Bowie State, played Wagner a couple of years ago on Staten Island. That was it was a good game. There was kind of a bit of a difference. Wagner's the NEC. Central Connecticut, Bowie State played them very close one year. Lincoln went to play them another year and got blown out. Even in North Carolina, Shaw Davidson was close. And Shaw Campbell was not. So there have been where they have played some other FCS schools, but yeah. It's been it's a rivalry when you play the MEAC and the SWAC. I feel like.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The SIAC, I mean, teams like Kentucky State and Central State, they've played other FCS opponents. Kentucky State had some luck the year they played Jackson State. They played Robert Morris, I believe. They got a win over Robert Morris, then they got the win over Jackson State. Then you got Dayton. Dayton pretty beats up. Just like last week, Dayton scored 60 on Central State. So I mean, they have found some success, not as regularly.
Robert Morris too one year.
Okay, and not as regularly as the SWAC and MEAC, and it's because the SWAC and the MEAC, there's that rivalry. I mean, we all come out of the same initial conferences for the most part. So, like, it's just whatever we want to play, we want to beat you. You look at the Tuskegee, Alabama State, Tuskegee, Alabama, A&M. I mean, we're in the same state, and to be honest with you, people for Tuskegee, like, we expect to beat Bama State. We don't expect to lose to Bama State. We don't care about Division II FCS. We don't care about that. When we play Alabama State, we want to win and we expect to win. So it's like, I think it's different, but I think, when you start getting into like those more respectable FCS conferences, up there, I think those would just be a lot of bloodbaths, if we played up like that.
Well, we'll see. We'll definitely see this weekend because Ferris State, who is the defending national champion, plays at Montana, which is a traditionally very good FCS school. So we will really see. Like what that's like at that level too. In addition to West Florida and FAMU.
Yeah. We'll learn a lot. I think we can almost put D2 FCS, conversation to bed a little bit after this week right here. We will definitely learn a lot.
Yep.
Great points, guys. As we close up here, man, we've been rolling. We've been rolling for almost 2 hours, man. So I appreciate everybody that's checked in and tapped in with us. Make sure you guys continue to check this out. This will also be available afterwards on the YouTube podcast platform, so you can watch it and you can also listen to it without having to keep YouTube open. So there's an option as well. I appreciate Kris and Kindric for giving us their knowledge. This is more what their thing, because they're really in the trenches there and keeping up with this stuff, and I'm just kind of facilitating and hopping in and throwing some gas on the fire every now and then. But yeah, appreciate everybody for tuning in. You guys kind of came with it at the end. Any final thoughts that you want to leave with folks, or any message to the conference? If there's one team you want to leave a message to, let's end off with that. So the SIAC is the younger of the two conferences by a year. So we will let Kendrick go first, and then Kris will finish.
Tuskegee, don't play with your food. Go ahead and knock Central State out. Miles, go handle business, and let's go above 500 on the SWAC this week. That's all I got.
Yeah, I would say for me, there's always a surprise in the CIAA. I'm really looking forward to seeing who that actually is. I'm also looking forward to seeing some more air shows this weekend. So I should be a very exciting conference opener for all the teams involved. And there are no non-fun teams in the CIAA. Honestly, even Livingstone, St. Aug, we joke about it, but there are no non-fun teams. So really looking forward to see how the week plays out.
I mean, Livingstone plays on a blue turf. What's not fun about that?
Right.
And how many wins? How many wins? I'm gonna put you on the spot. How many wins did the CIAA South get this week?
I think it might be just one. I think it might be just one. I think that it might be just one in a possible. I'm going to play a spades hand. One in a possible. My one is Winslow State. No, I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. Fayetteville State, Winslow State are my two. Possible would be JCSU. And the Axis powers are all going to take theirs from the north.
Yes, the Axis powers of the north is what we are calling them until otherwise proven. Even though one of them hasn't been able to get to that championship game since before I was in school. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Virginia Union, just a little bit of ammo for you. Again, appreciate Kris and Kindric for holding this down. Appreciate everybody for the whole D2 HBCU Football Nation, and for everybody that chimed in. Appreciate it, and make sure you guys share this when it goes out. And we'll smile for the camera until we see you again.